Well, as mentioned yesterday, my name is Bobby Dorless, but my friends call me Bobby D. And I'm a technologist, conscious engineer, founder, CEO of the Tech Hustle. But I'm here as your host this morning to get you all motivated and definitely get ready for our panelists. Y'all see them up there? They're chilling in the cut. They're not nervous. They're excited. Alumni is actually through Codepath programming, but more specifically here to help inspire you, motivate you, and giving you a path that you can follow. Can you imagine, like you on a journey and then you walk in and all of a sudden, oh, there's a path right there. Let me walk that way. How more successful would you be if you had a path in front of you, right? So definitely I want you all to get prepped up and ready for the conversation that's going to happen. I'm going to be the moderator of the panel, so I'll definitely make sure I keep it live and keep it going. But I got some things that I need to read through here, and definitely want to. First of all, I see everybody got their badges. Y'all give yourselves a round of applause. Y'all have to get y'all badges today. Maybe a few, but not too many, right? I brought my badge. I just don't have it on, so don't judge me. Right? All right, so I want to say good morning to everybody, and welcome to day number 2 of the Emerging Engineering Summit. We have an incredible, more or less, we had an incredible first day, and the second day is going to be even more popping. From learning, connecting, and inspiring, but there's some logistic things that we definitely want to make sure y'all ready for. Number one, I mentioned it earlier, surveys. Your feedback is by far one of the most valuable things we are looking forward to for events like this, but also how we can improve and how we can do better. If y'all want me to pull up, again, y'all got to fill up the survey and let them know that y'all like my entertainment or at least getting y'all started for the day. So definitely feel free to fill out the survey. And then I believe there's an end-of-day survey too, but we'll talk about that. The next thing is photos. I haven't seen that many posts. Like, I was walking around talking to everybody. I mean, y'all not tagging me because I ain't seeing it. But I wanted to encourage you all to use social media, but also on the back of your badge, there's a barcode for you to upload some of the content for us so that we can have it all centralized. And if you are posting on social media, please tag Codepath and use the hashtag EES2025, all right? One thing that we have slight change in our schedule this afternoon is we will be having a group photo, a class photo. So right before lunch, we're going to have you all congregate up here, meet me up on stage. Maybe not on stage. Y'all can't get on stage. It's just not fireproof or the amount of load that we can put on it. But we will be taking a photo before lunch. So I do encourage you all to pull up, get yourself in the photo, because just imagine when you look back 5 years from now, you're looking through the crowd and you're like, oh, that's a new CEO. Oh, that's a, yeah. That's what we want, right? We definitely want to show some love for you all showing up. So pull up right before lunch. The other thing that we have is resume reviews and mock interviews have been moved to the 5th floor, and that kicks off at 2, all right? There are some slight changes in here at the place where we're at, so pull up to the 5th floor, and we'll definitely be able to hold you down with mock interviews and resume reviews, all right? Now, the next thing that we're going to do is get queued up for our second day of conversation. But the thing before that is I want to hear from anyone, what was the thing that you enjoyed the most yesterday? Come on, somebody give me something. What did you enjoy? You enjoyed me? How many people agree with them? Y'all enjoy me? Y'all do? A few of you. Give me a round of applause then. Like, I mean, I'm trying to be up on stage all the time. I only come up on stage when people clap their hand, not when they just raise their hand. So I'm just messing. Anything else? Anybody enjoyed? Anybody else? So I will say that in my session, Scott, the keynote speaker, inspired me. I don't know if y'all seen what he did on stage. And we will have this all recorded, so I definitely encourage you all to go rewatch. But he inspired me to kind of stick my talk that I did, because I actually pulled out the whiteboard and didn't even look at my slides and, whiteboarding the whole session. But the cool thing about that session or opportunities here at Codepath is that you're going to get engagement from engineers that have been at the game for a minute, and y'all just need to catch these little things. Like, there was 3 commands that I mentioned yesterday on stage. Anybody remember those 3 commands? Go ahead, shout it out. Bat? Yeah, it's easy, right? BAT was one of those commands, right? There's a better cat. If you don't know what cat is a program that allows you to output the contents of a file. Like you said, cat file name, and just prints to the screen. But he actually had one that was BCat, and actually had some really cool colors. It had some number lines. That was actually some really cool stuff. And then the other commands were comma, right, and period, which are simple commands, but it allows you to interact with the AIs even more efficiently, especially if you're using voice. Voice is my new interface, too, so I definitely want to encourage you all to utilize it. Also, I had seen Block pulled up. Did anybody go to the it called? Goose conversation? Yeah? That was some really cool stuff, right? Goose being a CLI or a web interface to access commands or LLMs. I always think about computers, and LLMs is not a new term for me, so it's hard to flow sometimes. But Goose is a really cool program. I actually use it daily. I actually use it preferably than Claude Code and anything else because I like to be in a terminal. I'm one of those old school engineers that used to use VI. Anybody used to or still use VI? Yeah, one, two. VI is like a text-based editor. If y'all ready to step up your game, throw away VS Code and all those squiggly lines and autocomplete stuff. Go down to the terminal and see if you can hold it down there. But it's definitely one of the skills that I encourage my mentees all the time is coding on a blank sheet of paper. And I said blank sheet of paper is just a metaphor, but I want you to code without all the extra tools, right? Because what you're going to start to develop is the skill around debugging your code. I don't know about y'all, but I'm Mr. Typo, right? I used to write code and misspell easy words. And then I go run the code and I'm like, let me go fix that. Versus what you all have now, which helps us iterate faster, I get it, is the little squiggly line, a little typo, or you say what nowadays with AI, you just say even a box string and it just prints out code, right? But I do want to encourage you all to use the foundational tools, the low-level stuff, just to get familiarized with it, but sharpen your skills. Because if you didn't see, there was only like 4 people that raised their hands with VI. And, if you down in VI, I got much respect for you, right? If we're doing an interview and you pull up VI, I'm like, let me sit down and watch, right? But in general, that's just some insights or follow-ups from yesterday. All right, so we are going to start our conversation with our panelists. Are y'all excited for them? Yeah? I told you I only work off of round of applauses. Are y'all excited for them? Yeah, get them hyped up. Get them hyped up, all right? So for our day 2, we have a very special session, our Codepath alumni, right? These are folks who have recently sat right where you are, attended Codepath events, build up their skills, but figured out their path in tech. Today, they're here to share their real-world experience, what they've wished they'd known when they were in your shoes, and also the advice for navigating early stages of your careers, all right? It says this is your chance to hear directly from people who've walked the path ahead of you, and we've in for you all to see how Codepath's community can take you there, right? And the other thing I'll mention, a quick plug, your net worth, no. Your network is your, right? Your network is your net worth, right? Remember, that's how a community really works, is you're building a community. And if you see anybody you haven't introduced yourself to today, I want to encourage you all to go and introduce yourself, right? Because you never know when you might need a job, or you never know when I might need a job. So I definitely want you all to utilize this community here at Codepath to its full potential. So let me start off with the introduction. I'm going to read off their introductions they have here before we have them come up on stage. And the first person that we have is Miguel. Miguel completed Codepath Tip 103 course in the summer of 2022. Now he's a software engineer at Atlassian, based here in New York City. My bad, sorry. He's a 3-time founder who built and scaled companies without external funding, and one of which he led a successful exit. In his free time, he enjoys solo traveling and dancing salsa. Next up, we have Boris. Now, Boris completed 2 courses with Codepath in software engineering during the summer of 2021, and also the SITE program in the summer of 2024. Boris is a student at Texas A&M University Corpus campus, Christian, and has completed his internship at Meta twice, and Mercury, and will be joining Google this fall. Wow, right? In his free time, he enjoys poker, chess, mixed martial arts, and building Legos. Now we have Wendy is also coming up on stage, and she completed the Codepath Web 102 course in the spring of 2024. She graduated from Northeastern University in May 2024 and moved to New York City. She has been working as a software engineer at Microsoft for almost a year, and in her free time, she's enjoyed traveling, reading, and learning how to play instruments. If you all can, please give them a big round of applause and have them come up on stage. Oh, I love the music. Got me over here jamming. Appreciate you, DJ. All right, all right. So first of all, let's give them all a round of applause for making it up on stage one more time, one more time. That's the only way I work with round of applause. That's my currency. So what we're going to have is a conversation about their journey so far. But I do want to encourage you all to queue up some questions because we'll have a chance for you, the audience, to ask some questions. But first up, Boris, go ahead and give us a quick introduction of yourself.
Hello. Thank you, Bobby, for the intro before. Everything is pretty accurate. Right now I'm working on Instagram Reels as an intern. It's been pretty dope. I like New York. I'm from Houston, Texas originally. I'm excited to get to talk to all of y'all today.
Roger that, roger that. Give him a round of applause. It's okay. He works on the same currency. Wendy, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, you all look so amazing today. Thank you for coming out. Thanks for the introduction, Bobby. I'm Wendy. I work at Microsoft. I've been working there for over a year now. I hit the year mark 2 weeks ago. Thank you. And I'm so excited to get to know everyone and to share my experiences.
Hey everyone, I'm Miguel. Thanks, Bobby, for inviting me to this. I've been in Alaska for 2 years now. I hit my 2-year mark like a few weeks ago. And I finally remember doing the technical interview course like in my college room during my sophomore year. So,
appreciate you. Definitely, definitely. So first question up, and this is going to Wendy, is what motivated you to pursue a career in tech, and how did Codepath support you on this journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. A bit of backstory. So I grew up in Nigeria, and I'd always liked like the maths and the sciences, physics, chemistry, all of that. But I just knew I didn't want to go pre-med. And I had other family members in tech, and they talked about how much they had so many opportunities by being a software engineer. So I remember I then moved to America my freshman year, and I took my first computer science class. It was very, very new. It wasn't easy, to say the least. But I remember having such an amazing community at school and also with Codepath. And I remember the first Codepath course I took, besides just, the very knowledgeable instructors and TAs, it was the pod I was in. It was just a group of 4 of us. And just after each session, just kind of like ranting or like explaining things to each other or debugging really helped my own experience. And it really helped me realize that we're all in this together and there's a path forward for me. So with more time, I interviewed, I got experiences with internships, and then I converted full-time to where I am.
Roger that. Great journey. And if one thing that I caught is that community network, right? Because we all need some type of support. And Boris, next up I have is how did you balance Codepath coursework with the responsibilities of school and work if at that time you were working?
Sometimes it was tough, I'm not gonna lie. But I think just being honest and being able to set like a set schedule was like the biggest thing. So like my Google Calendar, I had like every day planned out. Like I was like, breathe at this time, like do this. But yeah, so being able to like kind of plan my days fully was like a big thing. But yeah, I also wanted to touch on the last question too, because I feel like mine's a little different. Like going into college, I had like no experience in tech. I like knew nobody. I'm the first in my family to ever go to college. So I feel like for me, what I got out of like Codepath and like CodeStack and like organizations like this was like more like being able to find what am I even supposed to do? Because like I really looked up like what major makes the most money, and I was like, okay, we're doing that. And then so I guess being able to help with like knowing what I'm supposed to do and like latching on to people that are smarter than me and like doing what they do, I guess.
Yeah, just latching on people that are smarter. You always got to be looking for people that are a little bit higher so that you can have some influence. And Miguel, I want to give you a chance to answer that same question. So, what was it that Codepath, in terms of motivating you to support you in your journey in tech, and how did Codepath support you on that?
yeah, I also started, I switched into computer science like the second semester of my sophomore year. So originally it was pre-med, and I started getting into it, just learning how to code. And I kind of found out about Codepath and like interviewing, all the resources they have, like the Career Summit and getting connected with employers. And I was thinking, like, is this free? Like, this seems like way too good to be true, right? And they're like extremely helpful, like figuring out like, hey, what do I exactly need to do? Like, what's my roadmap? And just like, I think like getting connected to employers was helpful, since especially if you don't go to like a top 10 school or something like that, or like an Ivy League, it can be especially helpful if you don't have those connections like beforehand.
Thank you so much for that. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I'm trying to get, work at Microsoft. So, Wendy, tell us how that interview process and how you actually, got into Microsoft.
Yeah. So I started off my sophomore summer. I actually heard of I did the Explore internship, which is targeted to underclassmen, and I heard of it through another org, Color Stack, that I'm also a part of. So I interviewed that summer, and then I went all the way to Redmond, Washington, got to meet the team, had a great experience, and then I returned the previous summer, and then I converted full-time. And I would just say I never expected such, for my first job to be such an amazing company. I never would have expected it, but I think it just goes back to show you the importance of building community. As much as I was working on an impactful project in Azure Storage, I think I made sure my teammates liked me, my manager liked me, and I was meeting people from cross teams, and I was cross-collaborating. So those hard skills are very important, but also with the soft skills, I think, allowed me to be seen as a valuable contribution to such an amazing company like Microsoft.
Roger that. And is it Azure, I don't know, Microsoft, what do y'all call it over there?
It's whatever you want it to be.
I say just write the checks. Now, Boris, let's talk about your journey over at Instagram, IG. So how'd you get their internship and how that all lined up for you?
Yeah, so I started off, I didn't even know what an internship was, like the end of my freshman year. And then, like, that's where, like, Codepath and Color Stack things come in. After that, that's where I learned. I was like, okay, I got to lock in so I'm not broke. Yeah. And so, basically, I think a lot of people don't talk about there's so much variance and luck involved in interviewing as well. Like, you can prepare fully, but if your interviewer's like, okay, you're getting, like, a lead code hard, like, you're cooked. Like, right. So, yeah, so I applied to, like, 20 million places. I think like it was actually like 200, 100, 200, something like that. And I only heard back from like 2 or 3 places, and one of them was Meta for the Meta University program. And I clutched up and I got it. And then from there, I knew I was interested in ML because of like the courses and stuff like that. But that one was like full stack. And then from there, I interviewed at Mercury, which was super tough. Because like a startup, so they're like debugging interviews, stuff like that. But I think also, again, like I feel like the biggest thing I want people to take away from this is like learn from people that are 1 or 2 years ahead of you and just like copy everything they do. I just like talked to my friends who had interviewed there or whatever, and like I was like, okay, now I know how to prep. And then for ML, I guess like don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Like I made a lot of projects personally that like helped me because I had like no ML experience. I feel like that helped me get into it. And then the interview process, like prep as much as you can, but like then again, like make sure you have a life too. Like shouldn't be the end of the world if you don't get the offer you want. Like I think I got like 4 offers, and of those, one of them was Google. So it's like, okay, I'll take it, right? So like, don't feel bad about like not getting every single offer. I feel like.
Yeah, roger that. Give him a round of applause. He's definitely making some moves here, right? And definitely some good insight. Miguel, you've been at it for about 2 years now, so we're going to take it a little bit back in terms of like when you first started. But what surprised you the most about when your first year in software engineering?
I think the main thing was kind of like learning how to like really plan out a project really well. Because now you're working in a team, right? You're working with stakeholders, customers, you have a manager, you have a team. It's really like up to you to like communicate assertively, like what the expectations and to like align on everything. Because like I think especially in a big company, there's always a lot of information being thrown around. I think that's like the main problem a lot of big companies have. There's a lot of information, lots of things moving around. and being able to like communicate what you're doing and what the expectations are objectively is like I think the best thing you can do for yourself. So for me, like first I've like honed in like my writing skills and like for me I think I can express things perfectly through like a written document and be able to like communicate that to like everyone on the team. So I think like being able to just communicate in one form, like whether it's like speaking presentations or like writing will be like extremely helpful throughout your career because you're going to be dealing with lots of different people. Not all of them will always be able to understand the same thing you do in like the same way. So just being able to really hone in on your communication skills is super, super important.
That right there is a gem. Like, as you're growing in your career, you actually start to go away from the IDE. I used to tell a lot of engineers that are pursuing staff engineers, is like, yo, your new IDE is going to be Google Docs and pull requests, right? Because that's all you're going to be in, right? Rather than actually at the command line. But learning these skill sets early allows you to effectively communicate not just to your team, but external partners as such. So thank you so much for that, Miguel. And Wendy, one thing I have here is were there any tough moments or things that you wish you known early?
Any things I wish I knew early? I'd say one thing that someone told me, I went to this career, something similar to this career prep conference, and I was handing my resume out, and one thing someone told me was, your resume has to be a living, breathing document. There's no final form of your resume. Even when you get that offer, when you get that internship, that full-time role, you need to be able to assess your skills, what you prioritize, what part of software engineering you want to be in, and have your resume reflect that. I say this because there was one interview I did pretty last minute, and I had a project I had worked on for a database design class, and it was like re-engineer Twitter, and it like had what I did in like 3 bullet points. I had not looked at that project in God knows how long. And I was going into that interview thinking, yeah, there's no chance he's going to ask me. There's no way. That's the first thing he asked me. And I was like, ooh, how do I address this? So I think just knowing that, one, be honest with yourself. I worked on this, but how much can I speak to this? Because as much as you want to have, that really cool project, you also want to show that you did the work and like you are competent enough. And that's okay if it's not the really cool thing that you can speak to. Just have something that you can speak extensively about and that you're passionate about. I think it's hard to lie about passion. Passion will ooze through your veins if you are, truthful about that. So yeah, all in all, have your resume be a reflection of your current state as a student, as an engineer, as a working professional.
And for us, the same question is were there any tough moments or things that you wish you knew earlier?
That's a good one, to be honest. Let me think. I guess same to what Wendy was saying, but also I feel like another thing is realizing that recruiters are humans also. I feel like so many people get so scared talking to people. It's like you just got to realize like they want to help you, so like give them a reason to want to help you more, I guess. Just be genuine and just talk to them like they're human. I've seen so many times where people are like just like throwing their resumes in their face and stuff. I'm like, bro, lock it, what are you doing? But yeah, I think actually being able to even just talk about like them as a person, I feel like you would remember somebody more if you're like talking about like your interests than if I was like shoving my resume in your face. So I think that's a big thing. That has helped me like a ton actually. Yeah, I think that, and then yeah, it's pretty much what Wendy said. I was obsessed with my resume. I would like stay up all night doing it, and like it was so bad. But like I feel like it has to be bad. Like I feel like you have to be bad at something to be good at it. So it's like you just gotta keep working at like everything you do. But yeah.
Yeah, and Miguel, you've been at it for a while, so it's a slightly different question. But what has been one of the tough or things that you would have liked to have learned earlier as you've been in the career for 2+ years now?
Yeah, I wanted to also chime into Wendy's point here. I think one super important skill that's been really helpful for me is learning how to take really good notes for yourself and maintaining your knowledge base, right? Because since there's also a lot of information being thrown around, you're going to miss a lot of little details. So like, for example, for like Wendy's point, like I think keeping notes on your accomplishments, what they were, and like a general synopsis of it will be super helpful. And like interviewing, talking about stuff like in behavioral interviews, but also just like when I'm working, I'm like referencing these notes all the time. I'm like, okay, like this is what I've talked about with this person. This is the context in this specific project. Because there's always like, for me, I like to use my brain more for like ingesting information and not like memorizing information, right? Because I think that's a better use for it for me personally instead of being able to put a million things in my head. So I like to offload it into my own personal notes and just use my brain mainly for like ingesting new stuff and then making connections instead of just remembering everything. Because way too much to just remember, you're going to be thrown at a lot of stuff, right? So like lots of different teams, projects, situations. I mean, you're kind of expected to kind of be able to be independent on your own and like be a contributor, right? So it's very important to have your own personal knowledge base to be able to reference everything and not lose context.
Yeah, go ahead.
So also another thing that I remember is like, as an intern, that's like low-key the like most amount of questions you're gonna be able to ask, where like you can ask dumb questions. So like take advantage of that, to be honest. But like you don't want to, I guess, like have hand holding. So like try to solve things yourself, but don't be afraid to ask dumb questions. So maybe like get a couple people so you can balance the dumb questions between them or something. But yeah, I think definitely leverage that because like once you're not an intern, I assume it's like a little more tough, right? Yeah.
Expectations are higher, right?
Yeah.
I used to tell, Wendy, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in. Yeah, definitely as an intern, that's the best time to ask those dumb questions. Even as a full-time, don't feel like, day one on the job, you're going to know everything. Like, I've seen senior engineers ask me questions. I've had my manager ask me questions. But I think one thing I do say is, like, when you ask a question, don't just ask, like, oh, like, how do I do this? But come with, like, oh, how do I do this? I've done A, and this didn't work. Could you, like, guide me along? So it's not just complete hand-holding. It's more like guiding you to the right path. But questions, it's gonna keep on coming up. It's inevitable. And you want to be on a team where your questions are valued and are answered properly.
Yeah, I used to tell mentees all the time. It's like you better have read something before you come and ask me a question. Like you've done some type of search, and questions are very powerful. Go ahead, Miguel.
Yeah. So and like also like on top of like maintaining your own personal knowledge base, that can also be used for documentation for your own team. So it's kind of like a killing two birds with one stone. You can have your own references and you're able to make documentation for the team to make yourself and your team more productive. So that's kind of how you spread your influence throughout the team also.
I want him on my team. Did you hear what he said? He said he's updating documentation.
Not really.
So actually, we're going to stay with you, Miguel. So one thing that I always want to and encourage the audience or cohorts or participants in events like this is how different it is from school work versus actual real engineering work. Like, what were those differences in transitioning?
I think with engineering work, the thing that's really difficult about engineering work is the requirements part. Like, it's so important. You need to figure out what you need at the very start of the project, or else you're just going to end up having delays. You're on deadlines. You have specific timelines you want to follow. You want to be able to figure that out up front because you're communicating with your team, stakeholders, and all of that. We're expecting you to deliver this thing, right? And I think one of the useful things I found with AI nowadays is like, okay, figure out like, scan through the code base and figure out like, okay, what exactly do I need to change? Make like a quick proof of concept for me, and then spit out like a tiny document of like, okay, how long do you think this will take? What exactly do we need to do? Because some of these code bases are massive, right? I think AI is really helpful in like searching through what's already there and being a bit more efficient instead of like writing extra code you don't really need to write, right? So I think just being able to figure out like, okay, what exactly, like now I'm thinking of like the road to being a senior engineer of like, and now my skill set I'm focused on honing right now is like a lot of planning and figuring everything out from the get-go and like all the assumptions. Otherwise, you're going to end up like with delays in the project and some like gotchas that like really get you in the very end. So just be careful of that.
Yeah, that was some really great insights. I don't know if you didn't hear, but he didn't say you're doing lead code all day. Right, you're actually doing collaborative engagement and working in a collaborative code base, especially in a monorepo. Wendy, tell me a little bit like how much lead code are you doing still today in your job?
0 to none. I do. It's more like a brain teaser. I have a group chat with some friends that are like, oh, like maybe like once a week, let's do this for fun, just to like, I don't know, like keep that side of your brain active. But there are some similarities in the problem solving you get from LeetCode with working your day to day. One thing I remember Codepath really helped me with, I took the interview prep course, and within the first few weeks, they talked about this umpire framework that was just a way to like, you know, answer LeetCode questions. And that's not just LeetCode specific. I think it's just problem solving in general. And it just helps you follow a more like step-by-step strategic approach to things. So you could be that type of person that, you know, you're like, it's a hobby, you want to LeetCode, go ahead. But it's not something you have to do on your day-to-day. I think, like was mentioned all around today, is it's more communication and collaboration, and also just working with people and understanding their requirements. When you're working on a project, no one tells you very concisely, I want this. It's more of a conversation, okay? If A happens, what behavior do you want? If B happens, what behavior do you want? You kind of need to go back and forth, and then when you have that, you then begin the process. But it's not just a one and done. It's very iterative. Things will change. Customers will change their mind a bunch of times, and you just, you know, you kind of know that's just the name of the game. It's very fast. It's very dynamic. So you kind of want to be able to shift and kind of morph with that, and work with your team speed, and work with your stakeholders and your product managers and the customers. Some weeks are busier, some weeks are chiller, and you kind of just adapt. I think adaptability is one big skill that I've been learning. I've been working for about a year now, and that's something that is kind of different in school, because at school you have, you know, assignment A, you're doing this, and then assignment B is something else. With working, it's like, okay, remember that thing from a year ago? Well, you're going to need it today. You forgot, well, you have to go back and kind of like look at what you did, which goes back to having great documentation. So I'd say adaptability is something that is a skill that you just keep on honing on, and you keep on improving in.
Wendy's been on my team too. She said documentation. That's all you need to say to me, and you get hired. Documentation. Boris, you see that, right? Boris, I want to ask you the same similar question. Is like, what skills and knowledge from Codepath have made the most value for your day-to-day?
I feel like the underrated part is like the breakout rooms. I feel like being able to like talk to new people is way more scary than like, I guess about the same as like talking to a manager and stuff like that. So I think that, and like actually being able to like kind of break down who's doing what and like kind of work as a team is kind of like mini preparing you for that, I would say, kind of underrated way. I think Codepath especially was like, I was not very disciplined in doing like LeetCode prep. So I was like having something that's like kind of structured and able to like be like, okay, at this time I'm doing this because I have Codepath. So I think that was a big thing for me. And then also like connections you make from it, you know, that's a big thing. Like for me it was like, okay, do you want to do like more practice maybe, you know? So I think that's a big thing, is like making connections. Because it's way easier to stick to something if you have someone like texting like, yo, are we still gonna do that tonight, like the LeetCode stuff, than just like relying on yourself. Because then you'll be like, I'll do it tomorrow, it's fine, no biggie. But yeah, I feel like that's the main thing.
Yeah, accountability is always great. And as you're going through your career, you always want to find those accountability partners. Go ahead, Miguel.
Yeah, also the thing about timing on the structure part, like sometimes you're not really given structure, so sometimes it'll be up to you to create your own structure. Like if you make the right thing stupid, easy to do, like you will be successful. So kind of just like making that environment for yourself. I think this is something I learned like a year in, of like, okay, I need to figure out my own processes and how the way I like to operate, and kind of just how to make that as easy as possible.
Yeah, and we're going to stay with you, Miguel, because one of the things that I want to encourage you all is definitely falling in love with learning, is what I tell my mentees all the time, right? So, Miguel, how do you continue to learn, grow, and stay motivated in this field of engineering and technology?
A lot of YouTube. I love like watching videos, so like Fireship, you know, like all those like classic YouTubers. I watch a lot of that. I feel like Twitter is also like pretty up to date in terms of what's going on.
It's called X. X, bro.
I don't like calling it X. I don't know, man.
Sorry, keep going.
But I feel like usually like X or Twitter, like they're pretty up to date on like what's going on in the frontier. So like there, I kind of go around tech Twitter. That's where I get my main sources of information.
I don't know if I mentioned that, but I did work at Twitter for a good minute when it was Twitter, not X. That's why it burns a little bit when I hear it. But also, yes, we were the platform that you went to get late and training news and all that good stuff. But thank you so much for correcting that. And also to you, Wendy, like in terms of, you wanted to add, Boris?
Yeah, I want to add something. Because I feel like that, like YouTube, Twitter, a lot of that usually you do when you're like passionate about it. And like you don't have to be passionate about tech, but it helps so much. So like one thing that was some advice that I was given is like you don't have to be passionate about tech, but find what you're passionate about and see how tech can align with that in a way. And that way like kind of helps you to like want to do it, right? So yeah.
And make the algorithms work for you. If you guess what? Keep watching these tech videos. What is the algorithm going to do? Keep giving you more of that, right? So take advantage of this algorithm and make it work for you for sure. So the next question that I have is for Wendy here is what's a common misconception about working in tech?
A common misconception. There's so many what to pick from. I'd say one is your day isn't all just about writing code. We've talked about communication, but also reading code and reading like really old legacy code, and you're just like, who wrote this? Find them and tell them to come back. Like it's writing code is definitely part of it, but it's also like reading reviews, communication, explaining your side of things, because there's so many approaches to a problem, but you want to be able to be assertive and have the facts to why your approach makes the most sense. So just advocating for yourself as well. And also on a grander scheme of things, when like conversations for promotions come up and for like, performance evaluations, you're your biggest advocate. Yes, you can come and say like, these are the metrics, these are the success numbers, but you also want to sit and say, hey, I did A, B, C, and I did X, Y, Z. So you really want to be able to speak for yourself. And you also want to have people that can speak for you as well, right? So your mentor is a person that can speak for you, people on other teams that have seen your work, friends at the company as well. So yes, you're a software engineer, but there's so many other skills that go into it, and there's so many other things that you might have as you come in, but you will learn on the day-to-day for sure.
Yeah, there's a gym there. I don't know if you've ever heard of a brag doc. You ever heard of that before? Right? It's a doc you maintain that you basically brag about the work you've done. But the most powerful time that you need to brag doc is when it's promotion time, right? Or when you get a new manager. Imagine you have a new manager that don't know none of the hustle, right? And you have a doc that you can actually speak on and also share with them. So thank you so much for that, Wendy. Miguel, I definitely want to follow up with that same question for you. Is like, what is like some misconceptions that you've experienced?
Yeah, misconceptions. Yeah, I think the same thing about like being able to advocate for yourself like is super important. Because like honestly, it's not your manager's job to know what exactly you're doing, what the day-to-day looks like, right? That's why I'm talking about like the note-taking stuff. Like you want to have everything written down so your manager knows what exactly you've been doing. Because their job is kind of to like to deal with all the like the politics, all like the corporate politics and all of that. Any other misconceptions? I think like one of the things is just like yeah, I guess like what kind of I had to learn like a year later, like into my first job, is just like, man, how much writing I actually like really needed to do in order to be like super productive. And that's why I kind of talked about the points of like building your own knowledge base. There's just like so much that goes on. It's impossible to keep track of everything. Like have every single little thing you do written down, like, and especially my brag documents. I even put Slack messages on there. I'm like screenshot, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be using that. Yeah,
That's cool. I used to do the same thing. So even when you get higher in the stack, you still need to maintain a brag doc, right? And I used to have Slack conversations mentoring, newer engineers, and I used to take a screenshot of that, like, oh, I'm gonna need this one day for sure. Boris, one thing that I want to give you a chance to jump into is how did you secure this new opportunity that you have coming up soon with Google?
Yeah, so again, I think a big part of that is like people I know that have like worked at Google, so like meeting friends, and I'm like, oh, I want to work at Google. So like, how do you do it? Things like that. So I mean, just apply, and again, it's like super luck based. Like I feel like I talked to some friends, and I was like, how was the interview for you? And they got like lead code hard. Like I was like, oh damn. Oh sorry, okay, sorry.
21 and older.
I was like, oh, well, I got like a super easy question to comparison. So like, I feel like sometimes it's like you have to be lucky, and like there's nothing wrong with that. But also, keep in mind that you like make your own luck by preparing, right? So like, also beware of that. And I feel like I wanted to touch on kind of what they're saying, like the misconceptions. I feel like one thing is that like a lot of people feel like they have to know everything when they go into working. It's not really the case. I know there's like a lot of imposter syndrome. I feel like something that I was told that helped me a lot was like they don't hire you to know everything. They hire you because they think you can figure it out. So I think that was something that like stuck with me and helped me a lot. But yeah, Google, excited for that. If any of you are in Mountain View next semester, hit me up. Yeah.
Man, free invitation. I'm pulling up. I don't know about y'all. So I have a question for the three of you all, but I do want you all to get ready to ask your own questions, so definitely get it queued up. Have either of the three of you broke something since you've worked there? Anybody can jump in.
Oh, last week. Yeah, I broke, one of my features in production broke, and then so I got like a phone call. And so yeah, that's another thing. Taking ownership of your own work, like if you're expected to deliver a project, you're kind of also expected to maintain it. And so I think that's also like one thing that also took me by surprise. Just like, okay, like here's like a stamp of your own work, like in production, like what people are seeing, and being able to really go over and like, okay, like this is what I did. And that's why, as I said, taking good notes of what you did, because like sometimes you won't, like maybe 2 weeks from whenever you ship like the pieces of code, whatever, you won't be able to remember it, right? So just always having something of like being able to jump back in and be able to debug quickly was like super helpful. And so that's like saved my butt so many times at work, like it's not even funny. So
Anybody else? Because I was breaking things all the time.
I basically broke something, but because Microsoft is such a big company, security is a major priority in everything we do, and they tell us to have like a security first approach because there's so many bad actors, and I accidentally leaked one of our secrets. My manager, I think that's another thing, even though you're like interviewing with these companies, you're also interviewing with the teams. My manager, he's a very reasonable person, and he realized like I didn't intentionally leak the secret. And it was just a conversation of like, hey, these team security practices and like things we do. I know you're still new here and you're still like trying to figure things out, but like this is what we do, and owning up to it, and like not saying like, hey, I didn't do it, like just admitting when you've made some mistakes. And you want to be teachable because you're not going to know everything, and there's always going to be a new technology and something new is going to come out, and you're not going to know. You're not going to be in school to like learn all those things. So you want to be able to be a sponge, and when times are necessary, like take a step back and realize, okay, I goofed on this. How can I move forward? Right? It's not going to help to be sad about everything all day. Like things will break, things go down. That's the name of the game, and it's scary the first time it happens, but the more it happens, the more time you see it happen to other people, happen to yourself, you realize that it's not personal, and no one's like pointing fingers. It's not like, oh, Wendy made a mistake. It was like a team effort. Let's make our documentation better. Let's make onboarding better. Let's simplify these processes so like these mistakes don't happen in the future.
That's what's up. I like the fact that the way that she described it was the team that made a mistake rather than an individual, because it's such a supporting, an opportunity to be very supportive on those. And only one word that I always like to emphasize with my mentee is integrity. Like if something breaks, you have to let people know, right? Don't dig the hole deeper by yourself, because you end up being down there by yourself. All right, so we're queuing up some questions here. If anyone has in the audience a question, feel free to raise your hand. I see one right there in the middle. And give us your name.
My name is Brittany. Could I ask a question to Boris and Wendy?
Of course.
Okay. So my question to Boris was, you mentioned that you did some ML projects. what's the initial ML project that someone with minimal coding experience could do? And then my question to Wendy was, you mentioned like looking at bad code. How did you learn what good code is, and do you have any resources to like make sure you write good code when you get into a position? Thanks.
I love those questions actually. For mine, I feel like a big part of it is like when you start, you're not going to be good, right? So I think like the way I approached it, at least for me, what helped me was like doing like YouTube tutorials, and then from there like expanding on it afterwards. So like okay, you do the tutorial, but then you don't just leave it at that, because I feel like it's super easy to just like follow line by line code for the code of like what it's supposed to do, and you're not really like pushing yourself. So like okay, yeah, it's fine to have a starting like base to go off of, but then try to push it further. And also, it's a little easier that way. It's like okay, you have this main thing, and it's like okay, now you're building something, and then eventually you'll kind of progress to where it's like okay, now I'm building like a bigger thing, or like now I'm building the whole project. And so like kind of just being able to take baby steps in that sense, because like if you're trying to build like ChatGPT again, I don't know, like you know, like it's like you don't want to overwhelm yourself. I feel like, and you want to make it fun. So if you're like you're not having fun, you're not gonna stick with it. I feel like so like that's the thing that's worked for me. Also hackathons, like being able to stick with it is super hard. So if you can just like you can commit to like 24 hours, like whatever, how much time it is. Like hackathons is like low key the main project on my resume. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it, have fun, and get it done. But yeah.
That's a great question. I think like coding, it's an actual language, so like treat it like French, Spanish, any other language. So the more you practice, the more you see it, the more you read it, the better you get at it. But specifically speaking to bad code, I think it's team dependent. So when you first join as an intern, full-time, whatever, just ask, what are the coding practices? Like, how do we name variables? Like what do we do? And again, being a sponge, so you're not going to understand everything the first day at the snap of your fingers, but the more code you see, the more code you read, and you try to understand, it's easier to identify when things could be better. Another thing is always aim for simplicity. I think you're not the only person reading your code. Someone else is going to look at it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you're not going to walk them through line by line. So just have that perspective in mind when you're coding. Like, hey, can someone else who doesn't have the most knowledge of this language pick up what I'm trying to do? And I've seen that on my own team as well, where like I see like some like very like spaghetti like things that are just too complex, and I'm like, hey, like this could have been so much simpler. And when you increase complexity, I feel like you can then introduce bugs and other things. So really aim for simplicity, but also everything is team specific. So when you join a team, it's like you're joining that family, and you behave as they do. Like when in Rome, speak like act as a Roman. So you really will pick up, like just look around, be a sponge, and you understand what your team's conventions are and things like that.
Yeah, so chiming in here, I think when I'm given a task, sometimes I'm like, oh, like when it comes to like bad code, like sometimes I'm thinking like, why is this harder than what it needs to be? That's kind of when I figure out like, oh, there's usually a bigger problem in hand. So sometimes it's like coaching just should be easy, but if they aren't, there's probably usually a bigger problem in the code base, or something's not functioning correctly as it should be semantics-wise.
Roger that. Google Style Guide is another great resource that I always encourage you all to review. Multiple code bases there, and definitely something we follow in the open source space. All right, one more question. We got time for one more question. Let me see if we have somebody on the left-hand side there. My guy right there. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Anand. I had a question that's open to whoever would want to answer. You spoke extensively about how there were changes from going from school to now working, and how you like learn some things and learn things along the way. I wanted to know, were there some habits or mindsets that you had while you were in school that you had to like unlearn while going to the workforce, and something that you had to maybe that you realized that maybe it's something that you didn't really prioritize while you were in school, which you should prioritize now that you're in the workforce?
I could take a stab at that first. from school to working, what's a mindset that I had to unlearn? I'd say one thing was, we're all so busy. We have so many like classes and homework and assignments. Sometimes I was racing against the clock to turn something in, and it's like 11:58, 15, like the last second I turn it in. And I'm just like, you know what, I just need something in. When you're working, you don't want to have that mindset of let me just get this done and close that book and move on, because it will come to bite you in the foot. It will be a problem later on. So I think one thing that working really tells you is if you need an extra day to make this production ready for like you and I to use, for customers to use, to make it work, you can get that extra day rather than turning in, a half-assed job that's like gonna break if someone just like tries to use it for a second.
Yeah, I think one thing is like you're gonna feel stupid a lot of the times because there's just so much going on, right? There's like years of context you don't know behind some of the things you're working on. So some things are gonna be like, oh man, I don't feel great about like my own like capacity sometimes, but that's kind of to be expected because it's impossible. Like these things are like built on years of context you don't know. So just take things step by step, really.
Roger that. Let's give them a round of applause here. I want to say thank the panelists. This is your currency round. One more time. They said they want to get paid again. One more time. There we go. All right. We are closing out our session here and moving on into our breakout session. One note, we are going to have our closing session at 12:30, so we definitely want to have you all come back down here. And if you have any questions or need any help looking for someone that has a Codepath shirt, thank you all so much for showing up at second day of the Emerging Engineering Summit. Hope you have a great day.